Hi everyone, it's Miss Parrot. In this video, we're going to learn how to color code video notes. If you recall from these pages that we did, we talked about the importance of interactivity and coloring, highlighting, and using shapes to interact with your notebook. Color coding, highlighting, and using shapes helps you pull out big ideas, break lots of information down into smaller, more manageable parts. It allows you to show relationships between different pieces of information in different parts of your notes, and will help you to process, recall, and find information in your notes. So what we're about to do is look at the notes we took on unit conversion by multiplying fractions. And I'm going to model for you how to do an example of color coding and what that looks like. Some people think that color coding just means adding color to make something beautiful. That's not it. Other people think that if I just color over everything and make it a color, that counts as color coding. No, that's not right either. So don't forget, you're using color, shapes, and highlighting to do these 4 things. Let's do it together. So first of all, looking at the video, the first thing I talked about is what is a unit. And I defined it as a label put on a number to give it meaning. So one thing you could do is say, since this is a definition, I could put a square around it or something like that, some shape around the word unit, and maybe all definitions will have a square around them. That way I use that shape to help me find definitions. Also, since I put unit in red, I can use that color to show relationship. So on the lower part, I'm just going to look at the first example. I encourage you to do this for all your examples. Every place I have a unit, I'm going to circle it in red so that I'm making a relationship between the word unit and all the units that I actually use in my video notes. So there's feet, centimeters, there's units, they're all right here. So that way, anytime I see this definition, I can easily find an example of what that definition means in real life. So the example I used was turning 204 centimeters, converting that into feet. Then I laid out some steps. You can use things like shapes to, or highlighting to give stuff like headings, like make them stand out. That's part of breaking it down into smaller parts. You could, use circles, squares, whatever makes it, break down to you. But since this is a heading, I make it stand out in that way. All right, so we're going to be looking at the steps and then applying the color code that we established in the steps to our example below. Okay, so first we can turn what we know into a fraction. That's step 1. So I'm going to use, how about orange? I'm going to circle the number 1 in orange, and then reading this sentence, what are the most important words that will keep me from having to reread the whole thing? So I would say, turn what you know into a fraction. How? By putting it over 1. So first of all, I've given this idea a color, a code, orange, and then I've pulled out the big ideas, turning what I know into a fraction by putting it over 1. Then I'm going to look at my example, and with that same color, I'm going to make a relationship by highlighting that in the same color. So I've coded it in orange, I've broken it down into a smaller part, and then I've shown an example of that. If I were you, I'd go through all my notes and make every time I put something over 1 in orange or whatever color you choose. Next, so thank you, Orange, for your service. Step 2 is to choose a conversion factor. So I'm going to color this step. I'm going to code it in green. And the most important thing here is that we're choosing a conversion factor. In the video, I gave a whole list of them. Reminders that conversion factors are just two numbers with different units that mean the same thing, like 1 foot equals 12 inches, or 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So, and we're going to use these to set up the multiplication problem. So, if I'm looking down here at my example, I can put a, so if this is green, right? I've said conversion factor, I've coded this green. I'm going to put a green square around this fraction so that I know where it came from, because this fraction is a conversion factor. It's two numbers, 30.48 centimeters and 1 foot, that equal each other, and I'm using them as a tool to convert this into the units that I want, which is feet, centimeters into feet. So thank you, green. Next, I'm going to choose a new color to set up a multiplication problem whose units cancel out. So I'm going to use bluish violet, I guess, in this case. So I'm going to set up a multiplication problem whose units cancel out. Now, here's the word units again. I might want to kind of go through this in red, like highlight units again, so that I'm showing, oh, what's units? That's this. That means I'm going to be interacting with these units here. Since I'm using this violetish blue color, then I'm going to, everywhere I have a multiplication sign, I'm going to go over that in this same color, a multiplication problem. Here's another multiplication sign. There's another. I'm going over it in the same color so that I can see all the places I'm going to need to multiply. You want to save this for later. We'll come back to this one. Step 4 is to cross-cancel units we don't need. So this one also has to do with units. So let's use red again. I'm going to use red to color code that step. And I'd say cross-cancel units is the most important part of that step. So then I'm going to demonstrate that. So here are our units. We already circled in red. But note, we're looking for ones, cross-canceling ones we don't need. So since we're trying to get rid of, oh, there's the centimeters that I hadn't circled before. Since we're trying to get rid of centimeters, what's happening in this process is we're going to cancel them out. Centimeters we're getting rid of in red. So I use red to code, show a relationship, and then actually show the action happening. Step 5 is to multiply across. I don't need a whole new color because I've already used this color, this bluish purple, as multiplication. So I can use it again because steps 3 and 5 are related. So I'm going to use that same color for multiply across. What does that mean? It means I'm going to multiply numerator by numerator and denominator by denominator. So I'm putting little arrows when I'm saying multiply across. What does that mean? I'm multiplying 204 times 1. That's what you get right here. And 1 times 30.48. And that's what I'm getting right here. So I'm going to put little arrows across all of my big multiplication signs here. And then finally, let's get another color. How about brown? To step 6, brown. Simplify, which means I'm not leaving anything as a fraction. Remember, a fraction sign is simply a division symbol. So like, even though I multiplied 204 times 1 and 1 times 30.48, I'm left with this, but I'm not done. I need to simplify. So I do the division, simplify, so I'm going to put that in brown. Okay, and so that reminds me to do my division and round. In the video, I mentioned that you need to round to 2 decimal places because if you do this, this has like 8 decimals, but we're rounding it to 2. So 6.69 feet is your final answer. The whole point of this activity is unit conversion, so you got to be sure there are units in the answer. So you can see how we've used color, shapes, and highlighting to do these 4 things: pull out big ideas, break big info into smaller manageable parts, show relationships, and it's going to help us process, recall, and find information. So that if I get a new problem, I can easily look at the colors to remind me of the steps that will help me work problems in the future.